Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. We take a verse from Bhagavad Gita. Akirtim Shapi Bhutani Katayasyanti Tivyayam Sambhavitasya Chakirtir Maranat Atirichyate Akirtim Chapi Bhutani Katayasyanti Tivyayam Sambhavitasya Chakirtir Maranat Atirichyate. Somebody? Katayasyanti vayam. Maybe a lady? Possible? Okay, Hare Krishna. Akirtim chapi bhutani kata yishyanti ti vyayam Sambhavitasya Chakirtir Maranat Ati Chiryati. Akitim infamy. Cha also. Api over and above. Bhutani all people. Katayishyanti will speak of you, avyayam forever, sambhavatisya for respectable men, cha also, akirti infame, maranat then death, atirchirate becomes more. People will speak always of your infamy, and for a respectable person, dishonor is worse than death. Both as a friend and philosopher to Arjuna, Lord Krishna now gives them final judgment regarding Arjuna's refusal to fight. The Lord says, Arjuna, Hare Krishna. Can somebody quieten down these people? Somebody should go and say,
Hare Krishna.
Shanti. Arjuna, if he leaves the battlefield before the battle even begins, people will call you a coward. And if you think that people may call you bad names, but that will save your life by fleeing the battlefield, then my advice is that you do better die in the battle. For a respectable man like you, ill fame is worse than death, so you should not flee for fear of your life. Better to die in the battle that will save you from the ill fame of misusing my friendship and from losing your prestige in the society. The final judgment of the Lord was to Arjuna to die in the battle and not to withdraw. Om Agyantimirandasya Gananjana Sharakaya Shakshunamilitam Yuna Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karamayam Darati Swapadantikam Vandeham Siguru Siyuta Parakamaram Sigurun Vaishnavam Sirupam Sagajatan Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savaduta Paijana Saitam Krishna Chaitana Devam Siradha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sivyakam Vitam Sa Hey Krishna Karna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpati Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutta Devi Pramnamihi Hare Pre Vanchakarpatruvya Sakhiva Sundava Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavi Noma Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Adri Gauda Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Hare Shri Prabhupada ki jai Shri Gaura ki jai Go Premananda Haribol. Hare Krishna. So, this Varnashram Dharma system is actually coming from Krishna himself. It's a system that is going on since in every universe and from time immemorial. And even it goes all the way into our daily life, just like if you look even at the Vaikuntha planets, Krishna is Krishna and Radha is Radha, Vishnu is Vishnu, Lakshmi is Lakshmi. They don't have any identity problems, like in Western countries. That people have identity. If one man asks himself, am I really a man? In Denmark, you can change your passport. You have two passports. One is a male passport and one is a female passport. There's Sven and Svenja. And so Sven is all the even months, like February, April, etc., March, he's Sven and the other, he's Svenja. So this is the craziness of modern society. That people, they suffer in the material world an intense loss of identity. That's actually at the root of it. Our identity is actually, as we know from Shastra, that the soul is an eternal servant of Krishna. That is our identity. But when we come to the material world, we're losing this identity and we are concocting so many other identities. And to avoid that, there's Varnashram Dharma. That is the idea. And Varnashram Dharma starts at the family level. It is impossible to institute Varnashram Dharma if the husband and wife are fighting. The husband wants to do something and the wife says, no, I don't agree. That is the beginning of the downfall of the family tradition. As we know in Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna says with the downfall of the family tradition, everything is destroyed. So it starts actually there. It's not. I was asked the other day by somebody from the GBC, how do we introduce Varnashram Dharma system? It's a mystery, but it's not a mystery. It's a mystery for people who have identity problems. You know, if somebody knows I'm a man, I'm a husband, I have certain duties to fulfill, I'm a wife, I have another type of duties to fulfill, I'm a mother. It is not that the babies are fed by the man. The mother feeds the children, breastfeeds them. There's so many duties as a mother. She knows how to stitch, she knows how to, all these things. It's not that men are stitching. Man has a different duty. His duty is to be very foresighted and raise money to maintain the family and give to the temple. That's the dharma. And you cannot change it. You can't change that dharma. Because dharma is pleasing to Krishna. Savai pung samparo dharmo yatho bhaktirat hoksade. Is that the verse? There's another one. Varnashrama vibhagasha svanushitasya dharmasya samsiri haritoshnam. What's the first line of that mantra? Ata pumbir dvija shrestha varnashrama vibhagasha svanushitasya dharmasya samsiri haritoshnam. There it is. You know? It's a Varnashram Dharma is so important. And Srila Prabhupada could not introduce Varnashram Dharma. He regretted it. But it is because, particularly people in Western countries, they are very rebellious. They're very rebellious, you know. And so he didn't want to have a rebellion of his disciples, you know, because there was sometimes it happened. I remember when Prabhupada gave Brahmin initiation to 12 Brahmanas in Boston in 1967, I think it was. So our ladies were very angry. And so they wouldn't talk to anybody. And so Prabhupada heard about it, that the women are angry. So we asked him, what is the matter? He said, you didn't initiate women. If you don't do that, we will boycott the Hare Krishna movement. Imagine that, what Prabhupada had to go through. They threatened to boycott the Hare Krishna movement. And so he said, all right, I give you Brahmin mantra, I don't give you the threat. But it was not Prabhupada's plan. When Prabhupada came to Western countries, Umapati Prabhu asked him, said, Srila Prabhupada, what you say in the Western world about men and women will not be very popular in Western countries. And he said, I'm not going to change the truth for the Americans. It's a very important sentence. He said, I'm not going to change the truth for the Americans. And so the danger of going very fast, a movement that grows very fast, it may and it should not go at the point of polity, at the cost of polity. That Hare Krishna movement, at least the devotees who live in the temple, they're supposed to be strict followers. It's not that if you invite everybody into the temple, there will be trouble. No doubt about it. I've seen this so many times. They get Krishna, just like Krishna himself. Krishna is equal to all. He gives everybody the same chance. Whether you live in the temple, outside the temple, on top of the temple, underneath it, far away from it, everybody has a chance, the same chance to come to Krishna. Whether he's a man, whether he's a woman, it doesn't make a difference. Everybody has the same chance to worship Krishna, but it is up to us to do that. Like one time Srila Prabhupada on a morning walk in Vrindavan, he was asked by one of my godbrothers, Srila Prabhupada, can you save me? Good question, can you save me? He said, yes, but you have to do the work. That's what Prabhupada said, you have to do the work. It's not that saving means, my Lord, bring me to heaven. I don't have to do anything. You just depend on Jesus and we all go to heaven. This doesn't work like that. Faith is good, but there has to be work also. Faith without work is dead. There has to be activity also. And so that activity is regulated by Varnashram Dharma, and as I said, it starts in the family. And since we will not be able to do that from one moment to another, particularly in Western countries, that's why Prabhupada has given us the Hare Krishna mantra. Because the Hare Krishna mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. What does it do? It decreases the fever. It brings down the fever of material existence. With false egos, with fighting, with so many things which are completely against Varnashram Dharma. So Varnashram Dharma we can do if people are sufficiently peaceful, if people are sufficiently realized. If a person is rich in spiritual life, it doesn't matter for him what kind of service he does. He does any kind of service. The gopis in Vrindavan, they were simple people. They were engaged in the activities of every farmer. They were cooking, they were cleaning, they're milking the cows, they're making preparations. They have houses, they have children. But there is a verse in this regard, which I will try to find. Give me a moment. Give me 1 second. Tavat ragaraya stenas, tavat kara griham, tavan moho nigado, yavat Krishna natijanaha. My dear Lord Krishna, my dear Lord Krishna, until people become your devotees, their material attachments and desires are like thieves. You can see this, that our senses and our mind are thieves. They're stealing away our spiritual life. You want to chant, you sit down, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. The mind comes to carry you away, right, into some other sphere. He's a thief. Take, for example, you come home in the evening and you want to go to bed quick so that you can get up early in the morning. So you come into the house, ready to go and take a shower, and you smell something very nice. You open the fridge, what do you see is pizza. It's already late at night, you know exactly, intelligently, you know you shouldn't eat that pizza in the evening. Have it in the morning, have it during the day, especially at noon, but don't eat pizza in the evening. So you tell yourself, no, I'm not going to take. Because then I cannot sleep properly, then I cannot wake up properly, then I cannot work properly. Right? And then the sense said, oh, come on, Prithu. Come on. Just a little bit. Mind also says, yes, it feels so good. Come on. Just a little bit, Prithu, just a little bit, just one little piece. I said, I'm not going to do that. No, intelligence said, not going to happen. The mind and the senses are, begging and begging. And so finally he said, all right, and you eat the whole pizza, and in the morning you cannot go out of bed, right? So it's the mind and the senses who are always trying to dominate the intelligence. And people who are performing in the material world or in the spirit, in material consciousness or in Krishna consciousness, who are performing well are those who keep their senses and their mind under the control of the intelligence. It's a very simple thing. So most people don't have this intelligence. You know, they will, whatever tastes good, like this American president, Bush, he was asked, why do you go to Iraq and start a war? And he said, well, my feelings are, it feels good, do it. So that was his answer. If it feels good, do it. This is not the way to perform a war. You have to be on the platform of intelligence, to not listen to the mind and the senses. So if we do listen to the mind of the senses, then they are like thieves. Their homes are prisons, because what you do in the home is eating and sleeping, basically speaking, and sex. And then the next item is the affectionate feelings for family members remain foot shackles. Now this is in material consciousness. Try to understand. That's why it says, unless somebody becomes a devotee. In material consciousness, yes. In Krishna consciousness, the senses and the mind are very useful. We use them to think of Manasadeo, my dear mind, Manasadeo, my body, my mind, my body, Manasadeo, Yokichumo, whatever I have. Arpilun Tuapari, I give to your lotus feet. Nanda Kishore, son of Nanda Maharaj. That's the same senses, same mind, same body is engaged in Krishna's service. So the house doesn't have to be a prison at all. It depends on our consciousness. We turn it into a prison. We turn it into an institution that makes us more and more attached to material life. That's the problem. You see the point? And Prabhupada says in the purport, apparently the residents of Vrindavan, which is the abode of Krishna, are simple householders engaged in ordinary affairs such as herding cows, cooking, rearing children, performing religious ceremonies, just like everybody else. Now, however, all these activities were intensely engaged in the loving service of Krishna. The Vrindavan residents performed all activities in pure Krishna consciousness and thus existed on the most exalted platform of Krishna consciousness, of liberated life. The same activities performed without Krishna consciousness are ordinary activities leading to bondage. It's very simple, the whole thing. That manmana bhavamat bhakto madhyajivam namaskuru. Always think of me, become my devotee. Yat karoshi, yat asnashi, yat chohoshi, yat asi, yat, or whatever you do, whatever you give away, you do for me. There's a whole, you can be a student for Krishna. You can be a father for Krishna. You can go to the university and say that's a dumb job. It's not inspiring. But you should see it as a possibility to later be able to maintain your family. Without education, it's difficult. If you have an education, then things become easier, you know. So you can see all this in Krishna consciousness, that I don't want to just build a Griha Medi ashram, I want to build a Grihastha ashram. For that you need some money, some support. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he was a high court judge. It's not that he didn't went to law school. He became a high court judge. And then used this facility to print books and to allow him to maintain his family members, etc. You see, so everything should be seen in Krishna consciousness. Then Prabhupada says, one should not misunderstand the exalted position of the citizens of Vrindavan. Nor should one consider oneself highly religious because he performs ordinary domestic affairs. but without Krishna consciousness. By focusing our passionate attachment on our family and society, we become completely deviated from the progressive path of Krishna consciousness. Conversely, on the other side, if we engage our family in the loving service of the Lord, our endeavors to maintain our family becomes part and parcel of our progressive spiritual life. That's the idea, that we use our life somehow or other to please Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the idea. And then Varnashram Dharma is natural. It's a matter of consciousness. If we are in the right consciousness, yes, we can do all this. Then somebody understands he's a policeman, for example. It's his business, kind of a kshatriya. Now imagine this, coming back to this verse, Arjuna. Say you're a policeman and you see your uncle climbing over the fence, smashes the window and comes out with a television set. What do you have to do? You can't look the other way. That would be corrupt. You get fired. You have to arrest him because that's your duty, right? And if you don't, and people will criticize you, what kind of policeman is that? Policeman has a duty, has to protect. And when he sees somebody thieving, either you or me or my relative, he has to act. Right? So that was the position of Arjuna. You know, that he knew what his duty was. His duty was to fight, to protect Dharma. The other side were on the side of Adharma. So he knew he had to fight. But because he was his relative, they were his relatives, he didn't want to act, which is a scandal. It's just like same example. If you're a king and your son does something wrong, you have to punish him. In the same way like you would punish everybody else. That's the duty of a king. And if you don't do that, that means you're not situated right. There's a problem there. And so this is actually the reason why Bhagavad Gita was spoken, because there was dharma there, duty. Like when Prabhupada was lying in his last days, I happened to be in his room the last 3 weeks of his life. I massaged his feet in the morning. I sang for him many hours. And one time, somebody came of his godbrothers and said, Maharaj, you have done wonderful. You have done so many things. And Prabhupada said, that is my duty. He said, that's all, my duty. And then he says, D-U-T-Y, duty. That was all his understanding. It's just my duty. There's nothing special about it. I have this duty. I know the philosophy. My spiritual master told me to go to the Western countries. I may have only $7 in the pocket. Very risky to go to America in that old age, alone, with $7 and no support. It's very risky. And he had 2 heart attacks on the sea. And normally, 1 heart attack you survive, the other you still survive, the third one you finished. And so when Prabhupada actually came to New York, he had another heart attack, the third one. And the doctor wanted to keep him in the hospital, and Prabhupada said, please bring me out of here to Brahmananda. And the doctor said to Brahmananda Prabhu, he said, this old man is praying too much. He should walk. And then Prabhupada, from the same day on, he started walking. Old man is praying too much. The doctor said. Old man is praying too much, he should walk. And so Prabhupada, every day, he walked, and I walked with many morning walks. It was very hard to keep up with Prabhupada. He was very... When he came to America, he was already 69, you know. When he used to go upstairs, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama. So when he used to go, he had his first apartment was behind the matchless gift store, behind. You had to go through a garden. Sisi Gauri Nitai ki jai, Radha Rasa Bihari ki jai, Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman ki jai, Go Premananda. So he had to go upstairs. And then Brahmananda saw he would run taking 2 steps at a time. He would run upstairs, 2 steps. I can't do that. 2 steps, you have to be a young man almost to do that. He took 2 steps running upstairs. He was very fit. And although he had 3 heart attacks already. So he performed his duty up to the very end. He was translating Srimad Bhagavatam up into the 3rd book of the 10th canto, up to the end. He couldn't walk. I saw one time he was laying on this side, and he said to Tamal Krishna Goswami, "Put that body straight." He was talking about his own body. He didn't say, "Put myself straight." He said, "Put that body." It was so beyond the body to say that. Put this body straight. And so, but he was extremely dutiful. And samsiddhi haritoshanam, that is pleasing to Krishna. If we work according to our capacity and to our intelligence and our ability for Krishna. It doesn't mean that you shave your head necessarily or that you move into a temple. It doesn't mean that. That's okay if you can do that, but if you're out there, you don't have to shave your head. You can shave your hair here at the side like people do. They look like pineapples nowadays. Right? Is that true? They look like pineapples with hair here, a huge tip of hair. You can do that. But whatever you do, Krishna said, Yat karoshi, yat asnashi, yat roshi, dadasi, yat. Whatever you do for me. That is the idea. In Krishna consciousness. We can take bath for Krishna, we can take shower for Krishna, we can eat for Krishna, sleep for Krishna, produce children for Krishna. We can do so many things in Krishna consciousness. And that's the idea. So Prabhupada continues on this verse. Where is it? Here. It is said that attachment for material objects in home is due to illusion, which makes a living entity conditioned in the material world. But this is only the case for persons who are not Krishna conscious. In the case of the residents of Vrindavan, such obstructions as attachment to hearth and home are non-existent because their attachment has been directed unto you, and their homes have become converted into temples by your constant presence. And because they have forgotten everything for your sake, there is no impediment. For a Krishna conscious person, there is no such thing as impediment due to attachment for hearth and home, nor is there illusion. This is from the Krishna book, in the prayers of Brahma. So it is just a matter of changing one's consciousness, of whatever situation you are in, at every moment is actually just what Krishna gives you. It's Krishna's mercy. Everything, Prabhupada used to say that the past is history, yes, the future is a mystery, you can't understand it, but the presence is a present, it's a gift from Krishna. So in this moment we can do, and we have to understand that we are in different situations. These situations are in the ultimate issue created by Krishna. And even if he goes through painful experiences, say somebody steals my car, or somebody beats me, or somebody, whatever, does something. He is just the instrument of our karma. He's just the instrument. We have to look beyond the person who is a perpetrator, who harms us, to understand that actually in the ultimate analysis, everything that is going on now between you and the world is actually going on between you and Krishna alone. It's not between you and them. It's between you and Krishna. That is the point. That we have to understand. That if we do not become Krishna conscious, then Krishna puts so many impediments into our path. Life becomes so difficult. These impediments come from Krishna. What is this verse? Kamana Devanetina. That verse, Kamana Devanetina. Under see Bhagavan Vacha, the Supreme Lord says, under my control, everybody is suffering or enjoying this or that. So the impediments we are experiencing in life are actually generated by Krishna himself. Why? To make us advance in spiritual life. How many people have come to spiritual life due to suffering? How many? Lift up your hand. Who came by suffering? Come on. You see, so many. Where's this suffering coming from? It was a way to bring us on the way to Krishna consciousness. It's Krishna himself. There's a saying that if God loves you, then he puts you on an anvil. You know what an anvil is? Like the blacksmith, he has an anvil. He puts you on the anvil and beats you and beats you and beats you till the iron has turned into gold. Till the iron has turned into gold. There was a potter, you know potter? He went into the forest and he saw somebody dig a hole. And he looked down the hole and there was clay. The lower level was clay. So he went down there and said, very good clay, no grits, you know, like perfect tilak. Perfect tilak is tilak, there is no grain inside. Bad tilak, it scratches you in the hand and scratches you on the head, right? Perfect clay. So he took a bunch of clay and went home. Immediately he started pounding it. And to this astonishment, the clay started to talk. And he said, why are you doing this? This hurts me. Please stop. Please. He said, no, not yet. And he kept pounding. Then the clay was happy. Then he put him onto a wheel and he spun him around. And the clay said, oh, I'm getting dizzy. Please stop this, please stop this, please. He said, not yet. Then he put the pot to dry. And the pot was very happy. Then you know, the clay was happy. Then he put the clay on and spun him around and turned it into a pot. And put the pot. After that, again there was a break. He felt happy, the clay. Then he put the pot into a stove. It was very hot. And the pot screamed in pain. He said, please, take me out of here. Please, let me go. And he saw that there was a little hole there, and he saw the lips of the potter. Not yet, not yet. Then he let him out, cool down, and the pot felt happy. Then he put glasur on it, glasur. You know, the pot was screaming, this bites my skin, please don't do that. He said, not yet. Then let him dry. Again he felt well. Then he put him into a stove which was much hotter than the previous one. He was screaming in pain. Screaming, please, please have mercy with me. He saw the lips. Not yet. Then the potter took the pot out and put him on a shelf and let him cool down. And he was cooled down. the potter came and was holding a mirror in front of the pot. And the pot said, I did not know that I'm so beautiful. And the potter said, that's what it took. I had to give you all these difficulties and to come to the point of perfection. And this is what Krishna does with us. If we don't make an endeavor to Krishna, the first class way to become purified is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare. That's the first class. The second class way is to learn to chant Hare Krishna by pain, better voluntarily. This first class. Otherwise, Krishna will force us to chant. When people are suffering, they chant. No doubt about it. When they're young, they don't chant, but when they get old, they chant. Because they see diseases coming. So this is how it works. If somebody steals from you, if you build somebody tears it down. You have somebody takes it. You are peaceful, somebody comes and beat you. It is never between you and them. It is only between you and Krishna. At every moment, it was always, it is always, and it will always be. That's the simple truth in Krishna consciousness. That's why the verses Krishna says, Yomam pashyati savatra savam chamai pashyati tasyam na pranashami nasar minas pranashyati. That one who sees me everywhere and everything in me, whether somebody beats you on the head or whether he gives you a piece of pizza or ice cream, is Krishna at every moment. Everything in me. I'm never lost to him, nor is he ever lost to me. That's the verse in Bhagavad Gita. What is it? Bahunam janmanam ante jnanam prabhavati vasudeva savamiti. He sees Krishna everywhere. Vasudeva savamiti. Samahatma sudurlabha. That is the verse. So this is Krishna consciousness. That we, transcend the material platform where we see everything in terms of I and mine, and come to the spiritual platform where we see that suffering can be the greatest boon. I remember when I was a young man, about 23, I suffered like a dog. I was in such a bad condition. I couldn't sleep for months on end. Because of irregular lifestyle. If you don't sleep for a night, it's okay. If you don't sleep for 2, still okay. If you don't sleep for 3, for 5, to 10, for 1 month, for 2 months, 3 months, it is Chinese torture. Horrible. I would not like anybody to go there. That's the worst you can experience. Even if somebody takes your arm off, that's no comparison if you cannot sleep, because every night you're in anxiety. Will I sleep tonight? And then all night you're awake. And sometimes you're not out for a moment, you freak up again, This is horrible. So then, somehow or other, I came to the understanding that God is behind this. That he puts me into this situation because he wants to get me out of this situation of scholar. And once I understood it, my life took off. And after a very short time, I got a book of Srila Prabhupada, I read it, I said, that's it. I went to the temple in the morning, took me 3 days to find the temple. I went to the morning by 9 o'clock. By 10 o'clock my head is shaved. By 11 o'clock I wore dhoti. And by 12 o'clock I was on the street distributing the same book that I got 4 days ago from a friend of mine. And that was on the 1st of January 1972. So how did I get there so fast? By suffering. This was by suffering. That Chatu Vida Bhajanti Mam, there are 4 classes of men, and one And the by far greatest number is that people come to Krishna because of suffering. You know, they suffered. Many times I ask this question in Russia or wherever I preach. I preach quite a lot in Russia or in Gulf states, Germany also, America. Every time I said, who came because of suffering? One hand lifts. I said, come on, be honest. And then 4, 5, 10, in the end the whole place, everybody has his hand up. Because in generally, unless one is spiritually very developed from one's previous life, that is another thing. There may be. Like we have there's a devotee in Czech Republic. He's 8 years old. His parents are not devotees. And he chants every day 64 rounds without fail. That is something. He's a great soul. And even when he goes to school in the breaks, the others are playing with balls or whatever, he sits there, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So I ask him, can you play with us? He said, no, I first have to chant Krishna. And chants. Every single day, 64 rounds, he's only 8 years old. That's a very pious birth, a very special person, you know. We have to go slowly, you know, become slowly, you know. I think for Indian people it is actually easier, if they do come to Krishna consciousness, it's easier to come to taste than Western people. Western people are faster and make decisions. But actually, I mean, you guys, you can have kirtan for 3, 4 hours, 5 hours, 10 hours. Why? This is the glory of India. You know, because there's still Vedic culture is still around. Many of you went to temple from childhood on. Like I went to the church from childhood on because my parents went to the church. And so my children go to the temple because I went to the temple. In this way they learn it from their children, from their parents. So therefore it's so important, this system of Varnashram Dharma. And it starts here with Bhagavad Gita that Krishna points it out, my dear Arjuna, you have a duty to fulfill. You are a Kshatriya. And the other people are Adharma. And they're attacking you. They want to take everything from you. In fact, they have taken, you have to fight. You can't say, well, they're my relatives. That would be sentimentalism. That would be sentimentalism. And so this is true for every situation. In Varnashram Dharma, in the ashrams, we have brahmacharis. We have to be brahmacharis. Sannyasis, we have to be sannyasis. We have to be vanaprasthas. We have to be grihastas. It's so nice how everything is organized, you know. For the varnas, you know, somebody is a kshatriya, somebody is a vaishya, somebody is a sudra, some is a brahmana. And if somebody is a Sudra, if he knows the signs of Krishna, what is this verse? Ye Krishna Tattva Veta Se Guru Hai. Whether somebody Kiva Vipra, Kiva Nyasi Sudra Kenanai, Ye Krishna Tattva Veta Se Guru Hai, right? That's the verse. It doesn't matter actually in what Varna somebody is. If he is actually Krishna conscious, he can be the spiritual master of the whole world. So, what we have to work on is to become Krishna conscious. We may have our duty to fulfill, yes. Most parents will want their children to get married. If you want to get married, you need money. To run a household is expensive. And women also can be very expensive. Men are also expensive. Women have one type of toy, men have another type of toy. They want cars, women want other things. So, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Very powerful mantra. I give you an example. Long time ago, 35 years ago, I went to preach in Kenya. And I used to give lectures in the temple there. And there was one couple. She was very pious, and she would sit and listen to the lecture. The husband was standing outside, and he was doing business with other husbands. This is mostly the situation. Women are in temple, the husband is making money. And so he would not come inside, only stay outside. So then one day, he got into the habit of walking around the temple. And he was chanting, Hey Narayan, Hey Narayan, Hey Narayan, Hey Narayan. And this went on for a long time. He came in the evening, Hey Narayan, Hey. Then he came in the morning, Hey Narayan. Then he came at noon, 3 times a day, making some rounds around the temple and chanting Hey Narayan. Then he didn't come at all for quite some time. So I got a letter, some Indian doctor called. I mean, East Africa is full of Indians, you know. So an Indian doctor called and said, Mr. Prithu Das, you remember this man, Hey Narayan? I said, yes, I do. He said, you should come immediately, he's dying. And he told us that when I die, you should call the ISKCON devotees. So we went there. And the doctor said, you're too late. I said, why? He said, you see this monitor there, his brain waves are flat. They should be like this. The flat brain, he's in coma. I said, let's wake him up, let's have kirtan. He said, you will, how can you do that? He said, well, no harm, he can't complain either, isn't it? So let's have a kirtan. So we had kirtan. And then after half an hour, this is a true story, there was something happening, the brain waves. And it became bigger and bigger, and the nurse who was in charge for that, she was in one room, she had something like 10 monitors of 10 different people that she would monitor their state of health. She came, she saw that, she ran inside and said, for God's sake, what happened? He's coming back. And she called the doctor came and said, oh my God, what happens here? He's back. And then this man stood up in bed like this and said, now it is Hare Krishna all the way, and he fell back and died. Isn't that wonderful? Now it is Hare Krishna all the way, fell back and died. How fortunate he was that he simply started to chant Krishna mantra. And you can do it wherever you are. Whether you lie in bed, you can't fall asleep, chant Hare Krishna or Nitya Guranga, or whatever. Whatever you like. Chant Krishna's name, God's name. When you are in a public transport, you can chant everywhere. Silently, you know, use whatever time you have left, chant. And it works. I remember one time I was driving in a train in Ireland. Ireland is a very Christian country, 98% Catholic country. And I was sitting in the compartment alone, and I was chanting. So one old man came, and he sat opposite to me, and he was watching me. And he said, what are you doing there? I said, I chant the name of God. He said, Krishna? I said, yes. He said, that will not help you. You should give this up. Unless you turn to Jesus and be saved by his blood, you cannot be saved. And I understood he was, you know, he was in a box. He was in a box. I understood there was nothing I could do, no use to preach. So then I said, Super Soul gave me the idea, that I said, I don't believe actually that you're a Christian, that you actually follow Jesus. He said, yes, I do. I follow Jesus. I said, are you sure? He said, yes. I said, so Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself. Do you believe that? He said, yes. Do you practice that? Yes. I said, all right. How much money you have in your purse? I said, what does it have to do with our discussion? I said, how much money you have in your purse? Come on. $100. I say, give me 50. Love your neighbor as yourself means 50-50. And he said, hold on a minute. I said, love your neighbor as yourself, Prabhu. That's 50-50. And he went, I suppose you're right. And he took $50 and gave it to me. And I knew my preaching was very successful. Because Krishna says, let the wise not disrupt the mind of the ignorant. They should be engaged, not disturbed, but be engaged in Krishna's service, in the spirit of devotion. You see, this was actually the accurate application of Krishna conscious teaching. So, I think I'm done. What's the time here? 8:30. Do we have any questions? Give me some water.
9 o'clock is closing time temple.
Huh?
9 o'clock temple is closed. Maybe 8:57.
What is the time?
It's 9 o'clock. 8:57.
Should be every moment, right?
Yeah, it's closed.
I thank you so much. If anybody of you has a question, please raise your hand. Microphone coming.
Prabhuji, you said about sufferings. Prabhuji, you said about sufferings that people are suffering and coming to the Krishna. Prabhuji, you said about sufferings and Prabhuji, you said about sufferings and people are suffering but they are using material mediums to satisfy and they are not coming to Krishna consciousness like mobile phones, entertainment, movies, Netflix and other.
Can somebody translate that because I can't understand it? Well, you know, media can be useful. Everything can be used for our spiritual life. Well, why do we need so many things? Why do we need? We are suffering, we want this and that and that. If a person is spiritually nourished, he's not bothered by anything in this material world. There are so many these things which bother us. Right? It may be a lack of wealth, we need this, we need that, we can't get on in school or whatever it is. Any type of botheration like this. It is there, no doubt about it, but if a person is Krishna consciousness, then he can take care of that very easily because inside he is so rich. So the thing is, like Krishna says, what is this verse? That one can refrain from sense gratification, but the desire is still there. However, if he develops a higher taste, he's fixed in consciousness. So the whole thing is that if he there's a verse, okay. If you turn to Krishna, then everything becomes very easy. Whatever your suffering, your problem may be. There's a verse that Krishna says, what is this verse? Machita sarva durgani. If you direct your consciousness towards me, Machita sarva durgani, all difficulties that come from Mother Durga. By my prasada, by my mercy, tarishasi. Will be destroyed. Just like toilet, you know. It goes down. You lose it. So why is there war? Why is there disease? Why there's unhappiness? Why there's a lack of food? Why there's coronavirus? Why there's this problem, that problem? Because of lack of Krishna consciousness. The material world becomes like hell without Krishna. And we're experiencing so many difficulties. If you want to get out of your difficulties, go to Lord Nityananda and say, my dear Lord Nityananda, I have a problem. What shall I do? Don't try to solve your problems yourself. Don't try. You have to appeal for Krishna's mercy. If you try to solve your own problems, you will not be successful. You will not be successful. You have to turn to Krishna, then everything becomes easy. Then ultimately every step becomes a dance and every word becomes a song. If you are Krishna conscious. Therefore, it is so important for all of you people, for myself also, to take this very seriously. If you don't have beads, get yourself a bead bag like this and try to chant nicely. Because according you turn to Krishna, according he will turn to you. Krishna doesn't want to see us in poverty. He doesn't want to see us suffering in the material world. He wants us to come back to the spiritual world. Therefore, if we don't walk on this path towards spiritual life, Krishna will give us so many problems one after the other, till finally we surrender. That's the key. Why do we have an environmental catastrophe? Because of greed. Greed, exploiting the rivers, exploiting the oceans, exploiting animals. 3 billion animals, 30 billion animals are killed every day. Why? There's enough food around. Because people don't want to eat dal and rice and bread and so many things that we can eat, they kill. So why is there so much suffering in this world? Because of karma. Why is there karma in the first place? Because people don't turn to God. They turn to money. Right? I mean, you're supposed to stand in front of Krishna and say, my dear Krishna, please support me in my spiritual life. Please help me. Rather than, oh my Lord, give me a house by the sea and a color TV, Jaya Jagadisha Hare. That's not a good prayer. Right? Everything comes. If over and over Krishna says, return to me, you can cross over all difficulties of material life, whatever the difficulty may be. If you do not act in this consciousness, but act through false ego, you will be lost. That's what Krishna says. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. One more. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaura Premananda Hari Bol.
Prabhu ki